Hello there, and happy spring. Yes, today is the official first day of spring. Maybe you've seen a couple of little flowers springing up here and there. Have you ever heard of the expression, hope springs eternal? Well, you heard it just now. It's a clever saying that means we will never have to lose hope. Eternal means forever and ever and ever and ever without end. And spring in that sentence is what we call a play on words. Spring, as in the season, and spring, as in springing up. You know, for 200,000 years, that's how long people have been on the earth. The cycle of the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, has helped people think about God. Christians celebrate Easter in the spring, and that's when the trees and the flowers seem to be coming back to life. And bears wake up from their winter hibernation, as you may have learned in school or in books. You've also learned, probably, that Easter is the celebration of Jesus coming back to life after he was so unjustly killed by the people in charge of things who felt that Jesus was a threat to their order of things. And Easter is a celebration not only of Jesus coming back to life, but also of what that means for us. Well, to me, it means two things. Jesus is alive and always with us, and we can always and forever and ever and ever eternally be alive in Jesus. That's what we call an analogy. Something standing for or meaning something else that might be hard to understand without a little help. So, springtime stands for rebirth. And because it happens every year, it also stands for hope. Now, you know that when Jesus was in human form, traveling around with his disciples, he was a great teacher who told stories to make his points. We call those stories parables. They're a little bit like analogies, actually a lot like analogies, because they mean something more than what they seem to mean at first. And Jesus often used nature in his parables to illustrate how the relationship between us and God works, which can be hard to understand. Lots of people Jesus talked with were farmers or fishermen, so they could relate to how Jesus explained things with nature. Anyway, here's a short parable Jesus told. It's a story with two characters. One is the owner of a vineyard. Think of a huge garden with grape plants and some other fruit trees and bushes. The other is the gardener, one who works for the owner. I'll read the story, and you think about who the two characters might stand for. Think, too, about what the vineyard and the fruit tree might stand for. Anyway, here's the story. The owner of a vineyard gave an order to his gardener to plant a fig tree in his vineyard. A fig is a type of fruit. And he came looking for the fruit on the tree and found that the tree had no fruit. So he said to the gardener, "See here, for 3 years I've been coming looking for fruit on this fig tree and I still find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting soil?" The gardener replied, "Sir, let it stand for 1 more year until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down." So what happened here? Well, let's think of the owner of the vineyard as standing for God. The owner is the boss. And the gardener as us, you or I. We are doing God's work on earth. And the vineyard and the fig tree as God's order of things, that is the focus of our work. And the fruit from the vineyard and the trees as the good stuff that comes with our work. So the owner, that's God, has certain ideas about how things should work on the land that he owns. That would be the earth. The owner sees that the gardener, that's us, has not done such a good job, and the gardener agrees. And then the gardener promises to cultivate the fig tree better. And that is that the gardener is dedicating himself to doing what is needed to make the garden produce the good stuff that the owner wants. And what does the owner of the vineyard want? Well, fruit. And what does the fruit stand for? Well, I think it stands for love. Notice that the owner of the vineyard gave the gardener an order. In the same way, God commands us to do things. And what are God's most important commandments to us? Well, Jesus himself tells us the answer. Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, Jesus said, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Beautiful, right? But not always easy. So we gardeners have to do our part to make sure that the vineyard bears fruit year after year. So happy spring, and don't lose hope. Easter is coming in just a few weeks.